hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true.
Our problem has been, as black people, we've always been concerned about white America, never about...
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter.
We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.
As usual, thank you for tapping in. This is Brian H-Rap Beat Williams. This is a few minutes with H-Rap brought to you by the End of the Bench Media. Thank you for tapping in. I've been on for a few days. I needed a blow. Had to recharge my batteries and do a few other things. I'm back. First and foremost, I got a report today saying that you guys have tapped in more than I ever expected. Salute to you guys. It is important that you continue to do so. It is greatly appreciated, and it gives me purpose in what I'm doing. It makes me understand I'm not just talking to myself. With that being said, y'all already know what I'm about to say. The first thing I say every day, if you are not watching this live, you're not watching this as I'm recording it, what I want you to do is go to www.theendofthebench.com and watch this live and immediately live and not Memorex. Live and not Memorex. And if you're watching it from there, it is greatly appreciated. I definitely appreciate every single solitary watch, every single solitary subscription, every single solitary like. As I do this, it is greatly appreciated. Thank you. With that being said, I want to do what I do every day. I want to thank my parents, Dolores and John. Somebody asked me why do I always put Dolores left, because me and Dolores are left-handed. That's my mom. She was left-handed, and my father. Without them, there's no me. Without me, there's no this program. Without this program, you'll be doing something else with your valuable time. Subscribe, like, continue to hit the like, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know where you're listening from. It's important to me. It's not important to the algorithm. An algorithm is only a mathematical problem. Thank you. With that being said, hey, man, it's going to be interesting, man. Today's topic is black folks versus the system. Black folks or the system versus black folks. It's really the system versus black folks, because we were forced into the system. Therefore, you are attacking us. If you don't agree, you disagree, and you don't see it the way I see it, that's understandable. Leave me a note, leave me something in the comments. I'll respond if I deem it worthy, because I'm not responding to an argument. I'm not a textbook, a keyboard gangster. I'm not going to debate back and forth with you about something that you clearly know nothing or very little about. Most people who do tap in, they have something intelligent to say. So I have friendly banter with them, even if they disagree. But with that being said, it is an interesting situation. We have a white nationalist regime, uninformed, uneducated white nationalist regime here in the United States of America, that if you pay attention to the world, which you should be, you shouldn't just be paying attention to these 48 and Alaska, Guam, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii. You should be just paying attention to those. You should be paying attention to the entire world, because the world has a greater effect on us than we do the world. Even though when you're living in these United States of America, you're taught that everybody's paying attention to us. No. At one point, it looked like we were at the cutting edge of everything in the world, and the United States of America was the big dog. Hey, it's a bunch of medium-sized dogs, and this whole conversation, like this conversation about 100 men versus one gorilla, hey, the United States is the gorilla. Since scientists have let people know that the gorilla would lose, who's going to be the first person to die? But that's another conversation. But just the aesthetics of 100 men fighting a gorilla is crazy. But if you got 100 people fighting one entity, the entity will lose. And that's what it's looking like right now. I want us to start paying attention to more than these United States, as I previously said, simply because, hey, you might have to have an exit strategy. And not because you're cutting and running because it's chaotic. It just might be a better situation. You know, like you were from what they classify as third world countries. They come here for a better opportunity. There are better opportunities outside of the United States of America. And I want people to understand that, know that, and live it, breathe it, and ingest it, because there's a whole world out here. We only make up like 12, 15% of the population. 12 to 15, I think it's even less. But let's just say a nice round number 10. So why would you limit yourself to right here? If there are other opportunities, and don't go by the propagandized news and the reports and things of that nature. You know, I just had a conversation recently with someone who said, hey, well, they don't like us in Africa. Basically, that is reverse engineering. You don't like it when people look at you and say, Black people are ... Because it's according to you, it's unfair. It's unfair, it's unjust, it's disrespectful, it's disregarding. But what you have no truck pointing the finger at the continent. Again, the largest landmass on the face of this earth. You can literally pick it up and it will cover everything that you've been taught. Asia covered, clearly covering Europe. There'll be more people in Nigeria and Ghana than on the continent, or the landmass called Europe. Obviously, Australia, obviously North and South America, biggest landmass. But you will look at them and there's billions of people over there. You say they don't like us, just like the people in the United States don't like us. But you ain't planning on leaving. But that's neither here nor there. I don't even want to get into that conversation. But what I do want you to do is understand, when you categorize something like that, that is literally that finger pointing back at you. Don't point the finger, because 4 fingers pointed back at you is really 3. The thumbs pointed that way. But that's you get the point. But what I want you to understand is this is what we're dealing with. Understand the world is a vast place, and you don't have to limit yourself. I have a second cousin who's living in Brazil right now. He worked here for years. He's my dad's first cousin. And now he said, he's living down there. And from the photos that he's posted, he's living a good life. I got another cousin, third cousin. He's living in Ghana. And when we correspond, he's living a good life. So I'm not telling you to go anywhere, but don't limit yourself to this landmass. The reason I want you to understand that limitations only slow you down is because I want you to understand. Look at the other side of the coin. Let's just look at the other side of the coin. Do you understand your station? Understanding your station. What does that mean, H-Rap? Understanding your station is something simple. I want you to take an assessment of the United States of America today. Just look at it. Just mentally put the United States in a picture. And let's be reasonable. People always say, let's be reasonable, man. Because when you look at all the violent interactions, when you look at the inability for the law to seem to work in our favor for let's just go the last 100 years. The 50s, I want you to look at it this way. The 50s were 75 years ago. You know somebody 75 years old. Is the world better than it was in the 50s? I don't want to go to the 40s, the 30s, the teens, the aughts, or even the 2 centuries back, 20 and 19. I don't even want to do that. I just want to go to the 50s. Is it better than it was in the 50s? Aesthetically, it is. There are more opportunities, but aren't those same opportunities? When you look at the state house in Texas, less than 2% of the people in the elected state house are people of color, whether it be Latino, Black, or some form of Asian. How is that possible? How is it possible for a white-facing man, as in Rafael Cruz? His name is not Ted Cruz. It's not Theodore Cruz. His name is Rafael Cruz. He is a white-facing man because he wouldn't even be categorized as white. He just looks that way. How did he get a spot before a Latino person who makes up about 32% of the population, Black people, the largest single population in the United States of America, Black people in Texas? And that's why I use that. And Black people white people are in the minority. How is that possible? Because they want to inundate you with things like DEI and woke. If you don't even understand what DEI is, you have unofficially lost your mind. DEI, diversity, that's what the country is built on. You want to tell us it's a melting pot. You want to tell us equity. That means everybody is bought in. If everybody's bought in, that means everybody gets the opportunity to sit in power positions. It's an inclusion. Again, It's everybody included with hundreds of people in elected office, and 2% of them, or less than 2%, are non-white males. See, that's the thing. Well, woke. At what point is woke a bad thing? Now, when woke is a bad thing, when you've worked about 14 hours in a day and you're very tired. Outside of that, woke is never a bad thing. Woke, you're not gonna miss out on any opportunities. Woke, you're not gonna miss out on any information. Woke, you're not gonna miss out on any. I did say opportunities. So when is woke a bad thing? That woke stuff. A couple years ago, it was critical race theory. Critical meaning important, race meaning everybody here. See, you see race and you think black because people have mistreated black and Latinos for so long, Latinos and Asians for so long, you immediately, but it says critical race theory, meaning the thought process behind race. So, and the theory is just that. This is how I see it. Disprove it. See, people think when you put somebody in a professor status or any honorifics at a university, when they put something down, it's a law. No, they present things to fellows who are, and fellows not meaning male, they put things down for fellows. So those people who are just as informed and educated as they are can disprove it. See, that's the true sign of intelligence. You put something in front of people, and people who are equally intelligent as you are and equally informed. That's the most important, because you could be the smartest guy in the world and uninformed, and they are going to disprove it. This is why people like Dr. Neil Tyson deGrasse, this is why people like him are as successful as they are, because he said, hey, this is my theory. Now, everybody who has the same information as me, disprove it. And he's very rarely disproved. Now, you are looking in a country in which we could just break it down to the bare minimum. Football, sports, or any form of entertainment. Why is it that people in entertainment who don't look like white men, why do they have so many problems creating opportunities for themselves and others? Oh, well, this company right here is very good at that. But if they are part of a clock of power, why is it that you only have opportunity at 1 o'clock? That means you have to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. Before you get another opportunity, then you got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth and so on. Do you understand how that is not fair? And see, when people hear race, when people hear culture, and when you hear things like white men have to stand down, I think you as an uninformed, non-listening person, you will take that as an attack on your culture. You'll take that as an attack on your relative, or you'll take that as an attack on your opportunities. No, it's not. Because if you're looking at the big picture, then yeah, that's the only way to live this thing. Because look, let's take it in a sense of nationalism. If the United States is the greatest country in the history of the world, and we are fighting against, competing, fighting is too strong a word. If we're competing against the rest of the world, shouldn't you have the best opportunities for everybody? I.e., again, I'm going to keep it on a sports level, because then we at a rudimentary level and most people can understand that. Not saying that I'm some wisely intelligent person who I'm some orator that's teaching the minions, but make it basic, make it simple. Again, if we are in competition to be the greatest country ever, okay. When 1988, for the first time since 1972, the American basketball team did not win the gold or the silver. First time ever they didn't win the silver. So help me understand this. What did they do? They went and got the best basketball players ever, aka the greatest team ever assembled, the dream team. And that group of guys mollywopped the whole world, because those were the best against the best. If that's what you did in sports, and if you want to have, if the Academy Award, if you want to have Miss Universe, if that contest is held in America, you don't get the prettiest girl in the world, the prettiest, most intelligent, most well-rounded woman in the world, and she'll be the American should be Miss America going into the Miss Universe contest. And now you want to have the most beautiful, quote unquote, most beautiful and engaging woman in the world possibly be from the United States of America, which means America reigns supreme. And I'll give you several dozen opportunities to use the same comparators. If that's the case, why should we not have a multicultural government from state to state, border to border, coast to coast? Why not? Because that is woke. And if you have a problem with woke, then you have a problem. And then, okay, let's slow that down. Damn, if that's not woke, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, cool, not a problem. H-Rap at it again. Now, if that's not what woke is, what about diversity, equity, and inclusion? If you want to diversify financially, you don't just go to the white company. You don't just go to the male-dominated company. You go to the company that's most productive. And guess what? There are statistics that state companies that have a multitude of people that come from diverse backgrounds, they excel and prevail, i.e. Apple, Amazon, and so forth and so on. And it will take you back to basketball, baseball, football, the diverse teams with people working together, where you have people at the top, people in the middle, people at the bottom. They tend to be successful. The Philadelphia Eagles just won the Super Bowl, a multicultural offensive line. They have a white fullback, white receivers, white defensive backs, black defensive backs, white coaches, black coaches, white people and black people in their front office. And they've won 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. Andy Reid the same way, multicultural people doing a multitude of things. So, but it's okay when it's football, baseball, and basketball, but we don't want it in life. Interesting. Guess what? It's gay people in sports. There are women coaching in sports. There are white men in sports. There are black men in sports. Hey, again, one of probably the most successful league in the United States of America is the National Football League. They have women, they have gay people, they have black people, they have white people. Hey, Asian people, they have a multitude of people. But guess what? That's not the model we want to go by. Because white men should be running things because white men stole this country. Because I ain't going to say created, because only God creates. White people stole this country. White people wrote the rules down, so white people should run it. And then you say, I wholly choose to be self-evident that all men are created equal. But you're not treating people as that equal. And help me understand, why is that the thing? That's why I say know your station. That's why this title of the show is Black People versus the System. Because the system is consistently attacking black people and anybody who's ever been in a fight, who's ever been in a battle. You understand, you bust the biggest bully, you bust the biggest adversary in the mouth first, and all the other people fall in line. And we've seen that. But what I want people to understand is this system is extremely powerful. Know your station. Understand my people. I talk to my people directly, but I'm speaking to all of humanity simultaneously. We are the number one target of this. Know your station. See, we get caught into this situation to whereas let's be reasonable. And if you read the description and the content about this episode, you'll see that. Let's be reasonable. Okay, let's be reasonable. We're going to be reasonable right now. H-Rap is going to be reasonable. Let's go from the inception of the idea of the United States of America. This starts with the Tiki revolt in Jamaica. The Tiki revolt, General Taki, General Taki in Jamaica. They put hands on white boys and they had to use the colonies to finance the retaking over of the island of Jamaica. That news, then they start overtaxing them to make up for that money they had spent. So the men and women in the colonies say, hey man, what you taxing us for? See, they told you that white men just woke up one day and said, enough of this, we ain't paying no more. No, they were taxing those people. So they said, okay, we're gonna recede from the Union. Bam, the United States is created and they wrote the Declaration of Independence, which does not mean peace and love like your president said last week in front of the world, showing again that we're gonna pick hate over intelligence. Bam. But let's get back on track. So you have this guy doing these things, and then bam. With that being said, what I want you to understand is this. That's what started the revolt. After that revolt started, know your station. Again, here's the know your station portion. A black man was the first person to die for this country. By a brother by the name of Crispus Attucks. And he's a hero. But then you put his brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins, aunts, uncles, neighbors, and ancestors in chains. Bam. But see, we were knowing our stations. Guess what? King George, who was running the United Kingdom or England or Great Britain or whatever you want to identify it as, he was running the show. He sent messages over here. You native people, you black people who were with the natives before we got here, if y'all roll with us, we'll free y'all and it's going down. What the black people and natives say, nah, we're going to fight against you, George, because you sent these buffoons, heathens, cretins, and barbarians over here, so we're going to fight against you. They help them win. What they get their land taken and their identity taken, their spirit attempting to break all of their spirits at the same time. Okay, now we got another 100 years come by, or 80 years, and then we got another war coming. Well, there's a couple of wars in between, but meanwhile, 1860 start, the South saying, we make all the money, we want the control. The North say, nah, we smarter, y'all. We don't want the control. Fight starts. They getting their teeth kicked in. Hey, black people, if y'all want to help us, we'll set y'all free. Well, we ain't gonna give y'all guns, but just help us. We said, okay, cool. Give us some guns, we'll win this for you. 1863, January 1st, Emancipation Proclamation is so. Hint, that's when the real Juneteenth is. Juneteenth should really be January 1st, but that's we're gonna worry about that. But we beat them down. We settle the country, and what do? They create the black laws. If you're loitering, after we enslaved you, after we prevented you from learning our language in a written form, after we stopped you from being as intelligent as you could be in our language, because that's only in our language, because we know that you created civilization, but when you don't have any place to go, but if you stand around for longer than 30 days, we can incarcerate you. Damn. Oh, by the way, we had a Black Legion. We had a Ku Klux Klan. We have other organizations to grab hold to you, because we did leave in those freedom papers we gave you. It said, but if you break the law, we can enslave you again and make you. And, oh, by the way, we're going to get the white people who enslaved you. We're going to get them reparations. We're going to pay them for the land and your lost body. And then we're going to make it so they can rent your bodies from us. Got it. 1900s. The Klan is in full bloom. Oh, damn, it's another war. Can y'all help us again? Yeah, we can help y'all. Cool. Y'all gonna be cool this time, right? Yeah. We're gonna do it. Oh, by the way, when y'all get back, we're gonna treat you worse. Second World War, same thing. Then we got the aforementioned 50s, as I mentioned at the top of the show. I don't have to tell you what happened after that. Understand, every time we've tried to be reasonable, Medgar Evers wanted to be reasonable. He died way before. He was unalived way before he should have been. This guy by the name of Malcolm he was less reasonable, but he was still being reasonable. He was less accommodating, yet still reasonable. Malik Shabazz, commonly known as Malcolm X, unalived. Man, this one brother, he was on the roll. His name is Great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, look, we ain't gonna fight. We just gonna talk. He got the Voters' Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, and the 68 Free Housing Act. Bam. But you know what? He started saying, you know what, man? We need that paper too. On the line. But see, at what point do we realize just because I identify something as racial does not mean I'm giving up. I'm just letting you know, I'm going to kick you behind. I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to outthink you. I'm going to outdevelop you. I'm going to out everything you. But I know that you stacked the decks against me. That does not mean by pointing out discriminatory practices, by pointing out clearly unfair labor laws, unfair drafting, unfair behavior. Does not mean I'm belly aching and moaning and groaning. I'm just letting you know I know what you're doing. See, I personally believe our people in our community who are hardworking, focused, driven people, they don't, it's not that they don't believe it, they don't want to believe that the world is in as a effed up place as it is. It is, ladies, gentlemen, haters, and bitter friends. Hey, those racists that hit me with those notes, psst, keep up the great work. Preach. See you watch. That's the key. Keep watching. 275,000 of the last month. Back to the point. This is what I want you to do. I want you to understand people. Just as want you to understand. Because I say, hey man, that's racist. Don't mean I'm gonna work any less. I'm a driven person. I don't have no other choice. I live up to Dolores and John. That's why I acknowledge Dolores and John, because everybody connected to Dolores and John until the beginning of the time. That's inside of me. I told you. I am a sum total of everybody in my lineage, good, bad, or indifferent. By the way, 4% non-black. But back to the point. Ancestry.com. But like I was saying, a lot of people they think, hey, because you identify this, and some people do, you identify these racial discriminatory practices that you're giving up. Well, no, you just can't lean on that. No, I'm identifying it to show you the fight ain't never going to be over. See, a lot of people in this world believe once you get the opportunity and then you excel, and then let's say Barack Hussein Obama becomes president, that was our problem. We said, we made it. Okay, it's over. No, that's when the fight started. Because you have white nationalists, you have their minions, and you have fools that sit up and pretend that that wasn't a major accomplishment. That's part of the fight. Because see, people are in love with white nationalism. White nationalism isn't only promoted by white people, it is promoted by people from our community. We have been brainwashed, duped, and set aside to believe the opportunities are vast because there are a lot of opportunities. That don't mean those opportunities are for you. What we have to stop doing is buying in to the system and create our own system and have that system work adjacent to the system. You know, kind of like a motor. You know, the motor and the transmission go hand in hand. But just because you had the greatest motor in the world, you still need to have a suspension, you need to still have a great tires, you need to still have great brakes, you need to still have great transmission, you need to still have great electrical. Now, the electrical system is a standalone system. It needs the motor to work so it can charge the batteries and so forth and so on. But you can have the greatest electrical system, you can have the greatest tires, but the motor's trash. You have the greatest motor, tire, and electrical system, but the transmission's trash. Everything works together. But what I want us to do is understand this. We can create a whole nother car. And at that point, we only need gas. See, because if you're a truck driver, there are enough of us in this country that the truck drivers can go to black farms and pick up things, and we can use our money that we create and take that money and buy other goods, and then our truck drivers are driving. Even we can have those same truck drivers driving for them, but that money comes back to us. We can complain about academics, but guess what? We can earn those same honorifics as you would do at Stanford, as you would do it at Princeton, as you would do it at Harvard, as you would do it at a Yale. And you get those same honorifics at a HBCU, and then we focus it there. Oh, but what about the big time? There is no such thing as big time without us. All I want you to do, black, white, or Asian, black, white, Latino, or Asian, name your 5 favorite players in the NBA, name your 5 favorite players in the NFL, name your 5 favorite players in MLB history. I bet you they look like I do. Name some of your favorite artists. Hip-hop is the biggest culture on the face of the earth right now. Hip-hop culture has permeated through places, you know, through the veins of the cultures throughout the world. Your favorite rappers are black. Your favorite producers are black. Your favorite dancers are black. And I'm not saying we're better than everybody. I'm lying. But it's not about being better. If your favorite sports people are black, if some of your favorite actors are black, some of your favorite TV shows are black shows, or some of your favorite movies are black movies, or movies with black people, #1 movie in America. I'm just saying, one of the top movies in the world. I'm just saying, if that is us, how is something else mainstream? See, you've been told that, hey man, it's less than, but it's not. It is greater than or equal to. And if it's greater than or equal to, you don't need anybody to do your thing. You need to just do your thing, i.e., right here. 275,000 people. I'm not trying to break my arm to pat my back, but I am patting myself on the back. But 275,000 people on an independent level. That EAA, guess what? That's big time. That's big time. And if I can do it big time, that means somebody else can do it big time. And if they can do it big time, we can do it big time. And then guess what? With 55 million black people in this country, let's just go on the documented 45. 45 million black people in this country, right? If 1/2 or 1% of them watch me every week, that's more than 275,000 people in a month. That's more than 400,000 people in a week. And then guess what? Those commercials be showing on the previews. And when you see my clips, you'll see a commercial first, and that money will come to me. And guess what? Then I'll open up a youth center. Then I can open up a store. Then I can open up a dry cleaner. And then I'm employing people. Then the machine runs. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. See, we don't have to subjugate ourselves to somebody else's opinion of us. What we can do is take what we know, add it to what we have, and then we become a superpower. With that being said, you know what time it is. It is time for Black History. It's time for the Black History segment of the show, whereas I show you something about your culture that it is a misnomer about. Look at this, and I want you to pay attention. And my new way of doing this is show it on the side, and I'll be talking. I'll be listening while this is talking, and I'll pause and we'll talk. I'll be back shortly in full effect.
Have you ever wondered what does watermelon have to do with race? And what is so offensive about watermelon? Don't white people like watermelon too? Well, the stereotype of African Americans being excessively fond of watermelons came during a specific period in history and was used to fulfill a specific political purpose. After slaves won their emancipation, they made watermelon a symbol of their newfound freedom by growing, eating, and selling it. Southern whites responded by using the fruit to depict African Americans as unclean, lazy, and childishness. This trope was so widely accepted within popular culture that the origins of it are almost forgotten. The trope of the racist watermelon didn't emerge until after emancipation. In the early 1900s, the European imagination associated the typical watermelon eater with Italians or Arabs. A British officer stationed in Egypt in 1808 described the watermelon as a poor Arab feast, noting that the locals ate them ravenously as if the passersby was going to snatch them away. Watermelon rinds were apparently a common sight on the streets of the port city of Rosetta. In Egypt, watermelon was also associated with uncleanliness, laziness, and childishness. These associations eventually made.
Now, with that being said, how many of you guys knew that watermelon initially didn't have anything to do with this? Of you watermelon didn't have anything to do with you and your people. How many people knew that? See, this is why when I talk about this when I come back on the full screen, this is what I want you to understand. This is a vicious cycle of hate spewed by the people who are on that screen right now, the people who look like that. Am I talking about all white people? No, I'm not. Because I told you, ain't no such thing as a white person. You have people from Germany, England, so forth and so on. Those white people are wicked. And I'm not talking about Caucasian people. I'm talking about people who identify as white. People of culture, they identify with their culture. And, Guyanese, Nigerian, Egyptian, South African, so forth and so on. Greek, French, Italian. White people are traditionally weird.
Their way to America, but watermelon hadn't yet been connected to African Americans. In fact, at that time, Americans were just as likely to associate watermelons with white Kentucky hillbillies or New Hampshire yokels as they would a Black South Carolina enslaved person. During chattel slavery, some plantation owners would allow their slaves to cultivate and even sell their own watermelons. Sometimes they would even give them a day off during the summer to enjoy their first watermelon harvest. Southern plantation owners viewed this slave's delight in watermelon as an indication of their own supposed compassion. Slaves were also careful to relish watermelon in a manner that it followed the code of conduct established by whites. As a result, whites could expect slaves to act in a manner of a caricature of a watermelon craving, juice dripping pickaninny.
Now, see, this is what I'm saying. Watermelon is one of the most nourishing pieces of fruit in the history of the world. It permeates vitamins. It has an insane amount of water, and it is nourishing, and it keeps you cool. Anytime you have a lot of water, you have a lot of nourishment. You sweat a lot. You sweat a lot. You're cool. You live longer, so forth and so on. Everything in your body is operating properly. But instead of that, you get this trope, and we bought into the trope to the point to whereas we buy into it as if it is fact.
Refusing to comply with this stereotype could jeopardize the precarious relationship between master and enslaved. The abolishment of enslavement drastically altered the relationship between Black people and whites. Formerly enslaved individuals avoided sharecropping on white owned plantations by growing, consuming, and selling their own watermelons. This behavior of enjoying your freedom and cultivating your own land and selling watermelon in public markets provoked a major fear within the white community. Newspapers would then stoke this fear that whites have.
Now, as you see, these things are not created by us. We don't believe in them. It's just like the DEI thing. Do you see the similarities with the DEI and the critical race theory and the woke? Anytime we stand up and say, wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute, let me put something in it, we're going to bring something negative about it, and then we're going to make it horrible. Now, if the world wasn't built, if the United States of America and lots of parts in the world wasn't run by wicked people, you would understand the importance of history. You just saw the importance of history. You would understand the importance of information. You would understand the importance of education. And when you understand the importance of all three, then you will conduct yourself properly. You will understand that there's no way for me to tear down anything and still excel and prevail, because to tear down is to destroy, to build is to elevate and bloom into something beautiful. That's why education is important. That's why people don't want you educated. That's why you have situations to whereas there are funding programs right now in this country where you can learn how to be an electrician, you can learn how to be a plumber, you can learn how to be or whatever. And they're cutting funding on those because those things enhance you. And when you enhance in one way, you tend to elevate it another way. You get more money, you might start acting different. More than likely, you will start acting different. If you start acting different, then that becomes contagious to your inner circle. Your inner circle improves and elevates. And guess what? It will permeate through your community. I've been using that word permeate a lot. I'm getting another word for the future portion of this show. And then you just continue to elevate. What I want you to understand is knowledge should metastasize through your community like a cancer. It should become contagious. It should fall on top of you, and it should get into your skin, and then get into your elbows, and then get into your joints, and then get into your bones, and then get into your mind, and then you'll be a better person for it. But you have wicked people that run the country, wicked people that run the world, wicked people who want total dominance. They need you as ignorant as possible, which leads me to the second portion of this, which is know your numbers. See, what I want you to understand is this. If millions and millions of people are captured here who are already here and they were forced into indentured servitude, and then you had a few other million people brought over here, 40% sent to South America, and the rest of us spread throughout the Americas, Central, the Caribbean, and North, then that means, guess what? Drum roll, please. We outnumber them. See, nobody really ever takes the time to realize that if you have 40 acres and hundreds of enslaved people on a multitude of plantations, that means there are far more people working than in control. If you doubt what I'm saying, how many people in management at your job? Oh, wait, yeah. How many people in management at your place of employment? How many people working? So that means that people who were forced to work or working or have been forced to work in one way or another, we outnumber the power structure. So if you outnumber the power structure at a place of employment, whether it be McDonald's, IBM, Apple, or wherever, Morgan Stanley, that means I want you to just reverse develop it. Why? There were more enslaved people in this country than people who ran the plantation. Supervisors, called overseers, managers, overseers, owners, upper man, lower management, children of the ownership of the land. upper management, the wife, and the CEO, which would be the purveyor of the land. I'm not going to call you a M word. Never going to say that out my mouth. And I'm not going to say that you owned anyone. You owned the land. You had the deed to the land. You forced people to do what you said by gunfire and threats of violence. Back to the point. If that's the case, why have we never just realized that and said we can do our own thing? See, that is a current like system about the 50s. We could do our own thing. Well, I would say the 70s, 75 to be exact. We do our own thing. We don't need them, but we've never taken the time to do our own thing and show them that we don't need them. Why is it that we preach that story, but we never live that story? Because I don't believe we have the power. The power has not been recognized. Again, let's just say, look at people like Tim Reed, who did it in the 80s and the 90s. He bought his own studio and created his own programming. And they hurried up and got Tim Reed's show off Brewster's Place. Hurry up and got that off TV because, hey, man, what you mean? You got your own studio. You don't need us. And you're going to create a hit show and people like it. Hurry up and got it off CBS. They did a letter writing campaign and got it back on, but then they eventually kicked it off again. Then you have the Negro Leagues, then you had the Black Basketball Leagues, and then you had all, Parker House Sausages in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, to be exact, on the South Side on State Street, if you ever want to go. You have a multitude of corporations that get swooped down and they get purchased by the bigger corporation. I have a TV show written out already, and I'm trying to shop it right now about those kinds of things. But these are the things that I want you to understand. We have the numbers. We don't need the support of anyone. But what you have to do is understand you're living this, drum roll please. Y'all know what I said. Say it every episode. For your grandchildren's great-grandchildren. That's what I want you to understand. Not your grandchildren's children. Your great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. That's what I'm going to change it to. We're living for our great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. That way, we will never fall short of this. They got these foolish tropes out here. Hey, man, if you're rich, then it's going to weaken your son, and your son is going to be weakened, and then your daughter's going to be, then his son is going to be weakened, then his son is going to be poor again. If you're stupid, you would do that. Because, see, if you teach your son what it took for you to get there, and you show him the blood, sweat, and tears. It's this movie called G60. With our sister. I'm doing it tonight on my show at 8:30 p.m. Check me out. If you it was Sister Viola Davis, her daughter, Viola Davis, her daughter in the film didn't realize how much of a badass she was. And then eventually when she figured it out, she gained respect. So if you teach your children the discriminatory practices, the racial epithet, the racial threat and violence, and some of the actual racial violence that you experience, he'll never relax. If he doesn't relax, his sister's not going to relax. His sister doesn't relax. His brothers won't really, their children won't relax, and so forth and so on. You can, if you just say, work hard, see, because I don't want my children to be even thinking about that. No, that's why your children will get weaker, because they don't understand what it took. They just thought, go to school, read, work hard in school, and it works. No. Understand discriminatory practices, racial practices, threats of violence, and all kinds of prejudice will be in your face. And then once you do that, that pain will never be relieved. You almost want to cut your child across the back of his arm so he can see that scar. Every time he get up in the morning, now, see, when you understand the pain of your parents, when you understand the pain of your grandparents, when you understand the things that they've gone through, then you understand the importance of family. You understand the importance of unity. And then you will understand the importance of hard work, family, and unity. And then you're unstoppable. See, that's the problem, in my personal opinion. From my POV, we don't want our children to understand racism, discrimination, and segregation, and threats of violence and things of that nature. We don't want them to embrace that, because they don't have to go through that. But yes, they do. They need to know it. If you ask me, that's the greatest problem that we have today. Because, see, I know my grandfather, George Williams Sr., my father's father, was on his own at age 9. I know that. I know how my family was forced out of Alabama with threats of violence. this. I know why I don't know my father, because in September he was at a peace rally, got hit in his head. He ended up dying in April, and my mom had to raise me and my siblings. I know that. So I bust my back every day for the people I love. So when my wife ever comes to say, Brian, I want, is there. When my aunts say I need, I'm there. When my daughter or my son says, Pop, Dad, I need, I'm there. And I toss it up. Since they were little people, my ex come home with them from church. At the time I wasn't involved in church. I am currently. But after church was over, I would sit my children down at the computer and say, what you learned today at church? They would tell me what they learned in church. And I would go over landmarks and find those places and show them how those people in that book that you just learned about, they just teach you about God and God's people. Those God's people are you. So they understood how they walk around with their heads up high. You can't tell my daughter anything. You can't tell my son anything. That's fake. They are willing to learn and be educated at all times. My daughter's college educated. My son is in the program currently. But when you let your young people know the pain and anguish that their grandparents went through, you went through first and foremost. They see that pain, they see that anguish, but they may not identify, because it took me to age 24 to realize that when my mother would tell me no when I was a young person, it was not no, it was I couldn't afford it, but she just put it at no. But then when I was 24, I realized, man, she was a superwoman. And then I knew my grandfather's story, and I knew my great-grandfather's story, and so forth and so on. And I'm connected with family members on Ancestry.com right now, so we can share. My cousin, Beatrice Vaughn, he's been a guest on the show before. Maybe if he feels like it, he'll be back. But once you learn these things, you understand the pain and anguish. Like my cousin told me how they would put things in the river to make sure they was cold the next day. Never even crossed my mind. He couldn't play sports against certain people. Never even crossed my mind. But these young people need to understand that. So when they understand that, and then they realize, wait a minute, there's more of us than them. You know what? Of course I would love to make $25, $30 million a year. But you know what? If I make $30 million over 10 years and I own everything around me and everybody around me is cool, that's even better. See, then we ain't got, man, Shaq and them and Oprah and them and Denzel and them, they need, nope, because Beatrice and Brian and Poetic Sins and Percolation and Knox, they can do it. We can get on the phone and say, hey, we can get on the phone just like Felicia Rashad did with Denzel Washington for Chadwick Boseman and say, hey, this young man needs this bread and I ain't got it. And Denzel paid for Chadwick Boseman and he became a superstar. We can do that in our own communities. Hey, Poetic Sin's son is he has the ability to be a world-class pianist. Well, how much she gonna need? Well, it's gonna cost 10 grand. I got 2,500. Knox got 2,500. Purple got 2,500. Big got 2,500. We send it to the Pope. It's over. See, that's what we need to get back to, and we have the ability to do it because one of the biggest impediments is this. We don't realize that we had that power. We don't realize that we had that power. You don't realize that it's people, and just like the people who used to migrate up, again, back to my grandfather. He came to Illinois first, set the foundation. George Williams set the foundation up. By the way, George Williams, who couldn't read or write. George Williams, who couldn't read or write. Came to Chicago, set a foundation. Sent up my grandmother and the children. And then guess what? Her siblings started coming up, staying with my grandparents. And then they got their own thing. And then more family came up, more family came up, more family came up. And they went west to California, but some of them still live there. And then they went back to the South. My Aunt Laura went back to the South. And then my great-grandmother, Maddie Mae Williams, Maddie Mae Liggins, she was from Georgia. And I got people in Georgia right now. And I got people in Virginia right now, so forth and so on. I got people in South Carolina. These are the things that if we start paying attention, we'll realize when you look around a major city, when you're in urban areas or in metropolitan areas, you may see more white people. But when you look at the South, you look at South and North Carolina, it's more black. When you look at Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, it's more black people. And guess what? It's more black people in those places than in the New Yorks and in the Chicagos and in the Milwaukees and Cleveland and Kansas Cities and Philadelphia's and New Jersey. It's more black people down there than it is up here. So if that's the case, why are we not working together? See, oh man, we only make up 13% of the population. Let's look at the real numbers. And then again, when you know your numbers, you know your math. When you know your math, you understand what you're up against. And which brings me to the last and final point today. What are you up against? Stand your ground is one of the things. Stand your ground. I want you to understand this. See, while we're paying attention to our young brother Carmelo Anthony, and we're paying attention to Shannon Sharp, we're paying attention to this, and we're paying attention to that, and we're paying attention to the fact that we can control TV if we wanted to. Ice Cube had this song called Burn Hollywood Burn, and one of the tropes was turn off that BS, turn off that MF radio. And then we think about this. Damon Wayans had mid-season last year, he had a Papa's House. It did so well that they extended them for this season. Then they extended for another season. And guess what? He stepped on Big Boy and started talking about being proud to be black and how black people need to stick together. Then he went on the hottest podcast in the world, Club Shay Shay, and did the same thing. And all of a sudden, this year, Papa's House is no longer on television. He bragged about how his sister Kim, his nephew, his son are writers and producers. His actual son is a co-producer, meaning he helped them create it. All the people on the show are black. You rarely see a non-black person on this program. It showed entrepreneurship on that program because he was the one of the top DJs in New York, like a radio personality. And then they forced him out. And then him and his co-host created a podcast, which was a hit. He showed you the light. He showed you the way. And people said, oh, no, we don't need that. And then talk about young brother Carmelo Anthony. I'm sorry, I got off track. You got Carmelo Anthony. I got ahead of myself. Yeah, young brother Carmelo Anthony defended himself. He defended himself with a knife, but these men towered over him. These were football-sized guys, and he stabbed one, and one of them was unalived. And that's not good to unalive anyone, but guess what? It's better to unalive someone than to be unalived yourself. The next thing is, it's this dude named Tyler Chase Butler. I want y'all to pay attention to this, man. Tyler Chase Butler. I should have put that on the screen because it's important that we know those things. Thank you. The Wayans don't get enough recognition. Thank you. Tyler Chase Butler. I want you to, don't put that on the screen for the people who are watching, because I want you to remember this name, man, because this name is important for the near future. Let me put this in caps. Tyler Chase Butler. There we go. I want that on the screen. That is a man that lives in the state of Virginia. Shout out to Flat Top. That's a man that lives in the state of Virginia. Children were playing a game called Ding Dong Ditch. If you don't know what Ding Dong Ditch is, you ring the doorbell. People come to the door. You might throw eggs, something at them. That's the new thing. And you run away, and you and your silly friends laugh. Guilty. I've done it. I've played it. It's silly, and that's what kids do. Tyler Chase Buttinger. These kids are playing Ding Dong Ditch for TikTok views. But they're not playing it the old school way. They're playing it the new school way. What's the new school way? We ain't just ringing the bell. We kicking in doors like Biggie Smalls at 3 a.m. Well, Mr. Chase Butler, Tyler Chase Butler, you know what he did? He upped that, understand me. And he took some shots at those young people. One of them was slightly injured. A few of them got away unscathed, and one was unalived. Mr. Butler is under indictment for murder too. See, it's difficult to convict on murder one. Criminal justice major. Murder one is, I woke up this morning and said, I'm going down to Main and State Street, and I'm going to kill somebody. premeditated murder. Murder 2 is you are unalived because my actions resulted in your death. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, you kick in my door, I'm using that understand me too. I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to use it because you have posed a threat. And a lot of, look, he's a young person. He should be alive right now. But I don't think if you come in someone's house, if you kick in somebody's door, whatever happens after that is on you. It's just like we had these foolish laws when people say, hey man, you should never put your hands on somebody. But if it sound good, but if you put your hands on somebody, you can't dictate what the response is. Like these men, these monsters, these cretins, these clowns who put their hands on women for no apparent reason, just beat them to a pulp. If that woman stands up and unalives that man, put me on, hey, I'm gonna get out of jury duty for the rest of my life. If I get a domestic violence case and they troll that this dude just relentlessly beating on this lady, he ain't just do something and got up off him, and the result was her death. She ain't going to jail with me on the jury. I don't care what it is. So that sounds like stand your ground to me, but he's in trouble for it. You got people who didn't stood their ground for less. And guess what didn't happen? Anything. No indictment. You got a young man named Trayvon Martin that's unalive right now because somebody followed him down the block after being told by the authorities, don't bother that young man. And he unalived that young man, and he's walking the street right now. Gangster rappers in Florida, though. Okay, I don't want to get into that, but these are the things I want you to understand. This is what you're up against. Another thing, when I spoke about the lack of knowledge that wants to be shared in this country, how they don't want you to be woke. They don't want DEI. They don't want critical race theory. They just want simpletons and morons. And we need to stand our ground in regards to academic prowess. We need to stand our ground in regards to political influence. We need to stand our ground in regards to all of these things, because when you have the former chief librarian of the Librarian of Congress, Miss Carla Hayden, who was doing an excellent job, and guess what happened? They said, hey, enough of that. You know, you out here telling people to read. You out here telling people to study. And you read these black books, and we're going to make our white kids feel uncomfortable. STBY, white kids, sucks to be you, because you need to talk to your parents so they can tell you what they do. Like I told y'all, we need to tell what our grandparents did. Maybe you need to start talking to your grandchildren, let them know what their grandchildren did so those mistakes won't be remade. But we don't do that. We get rid of the head librarian in the United States of America. She was running the Library of Congress. They didn't even give her, like in Illinois, you can't find somebody on the phone. You have to meet them face to face. They wrote a letter and just called her Carla. They didn't say Miss Hayden. They didn't say Chief Librarian for the Librarian of Congress, Miss Carla Hayden. Carla, you out of here. See, we're not standing our ground politically. Therefore, you have a tyrannical, dictatorial doofus running the country. And for those who are, this is for the people in the comments that's going to tell me how great the president is. Last week, your president, MAGA people, maggots, your president sat across from the Prime Minister of Canada and was insanely disrespectful. See, a lot of people say he was just keeping it real. He was kicking the signs. First of all, we ain't on the corner. Keeping it real, kicking the signs. He need to be kicked in his boop, 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 boop. But I ain't gonna go there. But he does need to be kicked in his back. But this dude showed the abject ignorance that he's participating in, and that you guys said he was the best. He said, well, we're gonna make Canada 51st state, and the Prime Minister sitting there saying, you a lie. We ain't doing that, but we here to talk about some things. He's trying to keep it extremely professional and extremely diplomatic. Donald Trump said, well, we only really do a lot of business with them. They do a lot of business with us. And we make the biggest, and he going to this little, we're the best, and we're the, which you dummies keep going for. But before I tap out today, I want you to understand this. China buys 50%, Canada buys 50% of the goods that's coming out of the United States. 50% of them go straight up to the Canadians. Tourism, who's going to Vegas? Canadians. Who's going to Florida? Canadians. Who coming to Chicago? Canadians. Who's going to California? Canadians. All those hot spots that people visit, Canadians used to. And at this point, they're saying, now we're good. You don't think it's impossible. Over $600 billion of the United States money comes from up there. But they don't really use that stuff. Guess what? They have a trade pact where they protect the northern Mexico, they protect Canada, and they basically protect North America. Canadian people are being trained to fight here in America. And you are disrespecting them. What, those tariffs? For people who don't know what the tariffs are, I want you to go to the Washington Post. Yeah, take me, Washington Post. I used to work there. I'm a former employee of Washington Post company. Go to Washington Post, put the tariffs, and look up the history of tariffs. And then you'll find out the last time you had a president dumb enough to impose tariffs worldwide as if the United States was the big dog on the block. It's one thing that happened. You may have heard of, see, a lot of people in the history, and see, because I'm in the history, I know a lot of people not really into it. So they might not have heard of this thing called the Great Depression, the last time a president tried to invoke tariffs throughout the world. Because see, if it happened more than 100 years ago, guess what happens then? The United States had a little more power then, had a little more influence then. But see, China has a ton of influence now. Canada has a ton of influence now. Europe has always had a ton of influence in regards to capitalism. Man, just capitalism, man. African nations like Sierra Leone and Kenya and Rwanda, fastest growing economy on earth. Rwanda, last time I checked, that's in Africa. It ain't one of those Egypt ain't in Africa joints. Y'all didn't even want to claim Rwanda a few years ago. Yeah, the movie Don Cheadle was in it. Y'all weren't trying to deal with it then, but yeah. Ghana and Nigeria, back-to-back years, two of the largest technological advances on earth, Ghana and Nigeria. So our brothers over there doing that thing. So when you say, well, we ain't gonna deal with you, we're gonna charge you extra, people going, don't worry about it. We don't need you. See, it's like owning the McDonald's and saying, hey man, we're gonna run our prices up high. And Wendy's and Burger King and neighborhood hamburger spots going, we're not. But we're McDonald's. Keep it. And that's what's going on. See, when you have $260 billion in imports, 260 in imports, and export 350 million. And these are Canadian situations. You're talking about $600 billion. And you're gonna say, hey man, we don't really need y'all. To the Prime Minister. You've just put yourself at a disadvantage. You've negotiated out loud what you should, that's what you think. If you thought you didn't use them, you still make them feel valuable. Because if you're wrong, you lose. And that's what we deal with every day, because we have a moron in the office. Most important, according to y'all, the most important office in the world, but actually the most important office is Speaker of the House. But y'all don't really, we don't get into that. But what I want us to understand is this. We don't have to deal with this foolishness. We don't have to act a fool. But what we have to do is understand who we are. Again, here go the things. Understand your station. Just because you identify discriminatory practices and racism don't mean you're going to stop. It just means I'm understanding what I'm up against. Now I'm ready to fight. Then you want to know your numbers. Do I need anybody? Do you need anyone? See, just like trade deficits and trade partners in an international situation, you can have that in a communal situation too. You can trade with our Latino brothers, we can trade with our Asian brothers, and then we can shop with ourselves as well. And then stand your ground. You stand there and understand what's around you. Be prepared to fight. And when you exercise your rights politically, you can keep the law off your back. And then when you exercise your rights communally, you can control the legislation in your state. And then when you do those things, you will have less of a fight on your hands. But if you don't, you'll be in the situation we're in right now. With that being said, as I'm going to start quoting one of the guys who I really enjoy listening to, is man by Reggie O'Shea, a.k.a. Comeback Jack, by saying, people, dream your dreams and man up and woman up and live your dreams, because life without dreams flows in black and white, and life with dreams flows in technicolor surround sound. I'll see you in 24 hours, 2 fingers, 1 word. This is Brian H. Rob B.
And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why